Okay, so at this point you should be able to center, open, and lift your pots. Okay, so that's the first 3 steps. So I'm going to start back over. Again, center first. So I threw it down there, made sure it was stuck on there. I put pressure down first rather than against, so it's more likely to stay on there. My first step is to center, wheel wedge that a little bit, so I squeeze from the side a little bit more, press down. And you want to practice each step. Again, I shouldn't see any wiggle in my clay. My hand shouldn't wobble at all. It should be nice and consistent. Once I've got it centered, I'm going to open it, again, either with your thumbs or with your middle finger over your left thumb. Or honestly, the way I open, I take my right thumb and I'm keeping it braced with my left thumb, but I just roll that one thumb down. Generally, you want to aim past the center. And then open that up so you've got a nice square bottom. Slow your wheel down a little bit. Lift it. Again, when you're lifting, lock your hands together. I have to admit, this bat is pretty loose. Some of the bats are not very good. This would be one of them. Try not to get too distracted by the bump, bump, bump. And a little bit of water on there. Make an indentation again. Lift that clay. Now that's likely going to take you more than 2 or 3 pulls when you first are starting. You want to be careful not to use too much water because it'll start to dissolve your clay. But if you don't use enough, it'll just rip your clay off. So again, I get the water out of the inside. And once I have done my 10 rings and my cut in half cylinder for practice, then I want to start trying to shape my clay. To shape my cylinder, and most everything comes from a cylinder except for, what do you think? Plates and bowls. Maybe a couple other things, but primarily plates and bowls. So now I'm going to start shaping. The shaping is really based on hand position and pressure points. So if you press more from the inside, it's going to go out. If you're going to press more from the outside, it's going to go in. If you think about your clay as having a tiny little steering wheel, that's really kind of key. So if I were to suddenly turn right, that means that my clay is actually going to come out, but my left hand is higher. If I suddenly turn left, or in, then my right hand would be higher. So your placement of your hands is going to kind of control where you're going there. Also, if you're pressing more from the inside, again, it goes out. Pressing more from the outside, it goes in. So if I want to press out a little bit, then my clay is going to start rounding out a little bit more. My clay is getting a little bit dry, so I'm getting a little bit of drag or a little bit of friction. Now if I press, my inside hand is a little higher than my outside hand, so it's going to start coming out. So I can start getting different shapes there. If your pot has form to it on the outside, it should have form to it on the inside as well. I'm also going to show you how to collar. Collar means you're going to bring the top in, or bring some part of it in. So think that it's like, hey! Okay, so fingers curled in except for your pointer fingers, and then you drop your thumbs in. And that gives you 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 6 points of contact. Six points of contact. Bum, 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 bum. If you just are making 4 points, it actually just kind of squishes instead. So again, 6 points of contact. I'm going to get that wet again. Slowly squeeze in a little bit. And that will compress that clay, and it's going to make it a little bit thicker there. So I want to kind of reassure that. Basically, after every 1 or 2 collars, you need to lift again. Now sometimes you get to a point you're only using a few fingers to lift. Notice I'm not using everything there. And then again I'm going to collar again. Again, it kind of compresses that clay, makes it a little bit ripply, a little bit thicker. So I need to squeeze that again. I'm going to start down lower. I'm going to lift again. This is a good example of needing to trim that pot. because it's really getting a little wonky and a little ugly. As my elbows are still braced. I'm going to trim that. So that I've got a nice even lip to it. Now you can also, you want to make sure a couple things happen before you're done with your pot, and these are things that people tend to forget, but I'm going to make that the next video.